We're going to get started. First off, I just wanted to make a couple introductions and say welcome to Google Montreal, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Maggie Smith, and I work on the student outreach team here at Google. Standing next to me is Shobal Moran. He's the engineering site director at Google Montreal, and we'll kind of be your MC co-hosts for our Googler Career panel tonight. So before we get started with our panelists, I want to do some fun trivia, and there will be prize bundles.
Maggie, just want to check, everybody can hear you in the back?
You guys can hear me in the back? No?
Get a little closer to the mic.
Can you hear me now? Better? Okay. All right. Yeah, all right. Better? Awesome. Okay. So for trivia, I definitely want to see hands. Don't blurt out the answers if you know it. And I will give hints if you know the answer. So, after Mountain View, which city has the largest Google office within the U.S.?
New York.
Yes, you win. And Amy is your swag master, so she has several options you can choose from. There's like socks, bags, Android PJs, and umbrellas. All right, so let's hear it for New York. Google NYC has 3,000 employees across 2 buildings, over 2,000 engineers, and 1,000 sales, marketing, business, and HR teams, along with a really fun rooftop cafe with a view of the Empire State Building. And also a fun fact is that Google is housed in the Port Authority building, which is the 2nd largest building in all of New York City. It used to be the Port Authority building, so lots of business and large things. So there actually is an elevator so big it can fit a truck. And there is an actual food truck in the cafeteria, which you can see there. It's pretty fast. All right, next question. Which Google office is depicted in these pictures? Take a look, think about it. All right, I see hands over there. No, it's international. That's first clue. Right. Sorry? Do you know what city? Yes, you win. Nice work. And so Google Zurich is one of the really cool Google offices, really neat design, and they have 75 Googlers from over 75 countries working on some of the most challenging engineering problems in the world, and they work on Map, Search, Gmail, Calendar, and YouTube. And it is our non-US engineering headquarters. 2 more questions to go. What was Google's first international office?
Dublin.
No. Further east than Dublin. Closer.
London.
No. Anyone else?
We have there.
Oh, in the back.
Cork.
No. I think it's in the region where Korea is.
Tokyo.
Yes. Very nice. So yes, Google Tokyo is our first international office. They're home to hundreds of sales Googlers as well as a large engineering team, and they work on areas such as ads, Maps, Search, YouTube, and they have been #1 on the Great Place to Work list in Japan for the past 3 years. And lastly, what is the nationality of Google Montreal's founders? And hint, it's not Canadian, but it's still a cold place. Way in the back.
Russia.
No. You already won, so. Anyone else? Look around the room for some clues. Sorry? No. Sweden? No, right region-ish. It's an island, hint. Yes. Very nice. So Google Montreal founders are from Iceland, and then actually this Tech Talk space is called Iceman Tech Talk, and if you look around, there's a lot of great pictures of Iceland to pay homage to their founders. So yeah. Anyway, so we're going to start with a few minutes of kind of an info session, learn a little more about culture at Google, and then also information on recruiting. We're going to get started with that. Before we get started, I'm just going to welcome Shobal to talk a little bit more about what particularly we do here at Google Montreal.
Welcome to Google Montreal. Can you all hear me in the back? Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to come here. I know you're all extremely busy preparing for your studies. So the objective of this session is to give you as much information as you need to learn about Google and to learn about working at Google. So please feel free to ask us questions at any time to interrupt us. Basically, we are here to help you understand what we do. I'm going to tell you a bit about specifically the Montreal office. Our mission at the Montreal office is to make the open web experience easier, faster, and more secure. And for that, we have a bunch of projects we're working on, and these projects are changing on a continual basis. So what you see here, if you join Google in 1 year, like 2 of them will be gone, and there will be 3 new ones. So we have Safe Browsing API, where we index everything we index at Google, we check for security and malware in there. So you have Nav, who's the expert in the back, who is one of the leaders in that team. And basically, we detect pages that have problems, and we publish this information so anybody can see it. Not only Google, but Firefox is using it. Who else is using it now? Safari is using it.
Facebook, web search.
Yeah. So, and even yourself, you can just access the API and you give it the name of a web page, and it will tell you if this web page has potential malware. We have web app malware detection. So the same thing we do for pages, we do it for web apps, and we have an algorithm that will look at the web app and try to see, is this web app trying to do something funny with my computer? We have a center of expertise in Windows development at Google worldwide, and we were a part of the team that did the Windows 8 version of Chrome. We did social integration in Chrome. We do a lot of work in accelerating Chrome and making it faster using GPU and other kinds of acceleration. That's many magic sources that we put to make Chrome faster. I work on the Chrome Web Store, which is the website where you can go and download applications that work on the web. And we work as well in Chrome Analytics. The objective of this is to understand our users and to understand what they're doing to help them improve the Chrome experience and making it simpler and more fun to do. So these are some of our projects. Some of the technologies, very, very quickly. So big means we have more of it, and small we have less of it. So we do a lot of C++ development in the office. There is as well JavaScript and Python. So if you don't want to work in C++, there is projects that don't have it, but we really have loads of C++ work. We do GPU work, we have machine learning, big data, we do a lot of work on optimization, especially for speed. We are a center of excellence in Windows development. So people who know about Windows development would love working here. But we do as well have Linux and Mac OS. Most of the work here is on desktop. We do have some work on the mobile and tablet environments. This gives you a small idea, but with the panel later, you can ask them questions to be more specifics about life in the office and life at Google in general.
Thank you, Jibble. And so before we get started, this is just the basic information for applying to Google. Basically, we need everyone to apply if you're interested online at google.com/student. So that's the most important web address to remember if you're thinking of applying. We'll have more information to come later. So the overarching message that we want to talk to you tonight about is at Google, we want to do cool stuff that matters for billions of people, so at scale. Search was our first product, and it was designed with a really simple concept. We wanted the information on the internet to be accessible to as many people as possible. So organizing the world of information and making it universally accessible and useful is actually our core mission. 15 years later, we are not just one of the largest tech companies, but we are also, and not only the pioneers of the web, but also a verb. So you don't say Microsoft it, Amazon it, Oracle it. You might say Facebook it, but it's not yet in the dictionary. Google is definitely, it actually is in the dictionary, so it's definitely grown from those early days of one search product. So even though we have lots of different products that probably many of you use on a daily basis, one of our still main challenges and missions is to tie it to one user experience. So these are our 8 distinct product areas. You can read them up there. And those are all the places that we are currently looking to hire great engineers. But while each of them are distinct product areas, the goal is to still make it one Google and one great seamless user experience. So let's look at Google by the numbers. So the really interesting things to show how big some of the scale Google is doing. So 5 million, that's the amount of miles that Google cars drove to complete Project Truth, which was their goal to map basically all of the roads in every place that was accessible. We weren't going to rely on satellite imagery because we wanted it to be very excellent. So they actually had cars, in addition, hikers, bikers, walkers, basically everything, bikes on college campuses and in Walmarts to map that. And I actually know that one of the interns on Maps, it was her project because she was very into hiking, to spend like a couple days to go and hike and map trails. So very cool. And so 840,000, that's just amount of miles that the Google self-driving cars have driven to date. That's one of our main projects out of the Google X Lab, and actually really exciting because this year it's going up to pass California state legislation. So hopefully within the very near future, we'll have self-driving cars. Google's also universal. So to have a global impact, we need to have a global workforce. All of those map pins you see up there are Google offices around the world. We have a very diverse set of offices and Googlers. Each office reflects the local culture, and we try to hire as many diverse Googlers as possible. Within North America, here's some of the examples of the different office locations within the US and Canada. If you particularly know, like Boulder, Montreal, Pittsburgh, and Waterloo, those are the places where we have engineering-specific offices, like the one you guys are in right now. So, yeah, so these are all very focused on engineering. So next we want to talk about the Google quality of life, and so what it's like to actually work at Google and some of the things that come with it. So we know there's great food, and from our original pictures, there's cool office locations like a gondola in Switzerland and slides and trucks and tons of candy. But that's not really what I want to talk to you guys about, because I don't think at the end of the day that's what's really going to excite you and want to apply for opportunities here. One of the reasons that we all think that Google is such a great place to work is because one of their mission regarding their employees is to help their employees optimize their whole self and bring their whole self to work. So Google as a company focuses on Googlers and growing them in their whole self. So everything from health and wellness programs, so fitness, obviously quality food, on-site massage. In Google Montreal, there's a recording studio upstairs. Basically just trying to give Googlers the things they need to be healthy and be well. So in terms of rejuvenation, unlimited sick days, great holiday and vacation time. I'm not sure too many of you are thinking about maternity and paternity leave, but they have very competitive benefits. So if you're thinking really long-term about your career, that's great as well. Community is really important for Google as well. We have a gift matching program, so if you donate to charities, Google will match it. There's also a really great program called Google Serve, which one day a year, Googlers spend their entire workday volunteering on a community project with the rest of their office. So instead of working, you get to go volunteer to build houses, beautify a park, other great community programs. And there's also some great employee resource groups. And what those are groups, so like Google Women Engineers, or BGN, which is Black Googlers Network, or Hispanic Googlers Network, or the Gaglers, which is LGBT Googlers. So there's a lot of ways to organize in different communities when you're at Google. And lastly, we work a lot with financial benefits. So a lot of you, this is going to potentially be your first job out of college, and there's things like stock and 401ks to deal with, which if you're like me, I had really no idea what that was coming fresh out of school. They give you a lot of resources and counseling to help learn how to manage those new things. At Google also, we want to help people grow their career, and so not be staying in the same role that you've been at. We want you to help you change and be glad you're within the company. So there's the Googlers to Googlers Network, which can help you grow your skills, both technically, lots of classes on Python and growing engineering skills, but also pretty much anything. So people teach drumming classes, or I think I heard juggling classes was the most recent addition. Google Magnet is basically the open job board where you can look at every job that's open in a company. You can also find other Googlers that have the skills and are on the teams that you potentially would want to be on, and basically just email them and ask them to set up a coffee or a lunch so you can learn more about what they do and how you can get there. For any PhD students, we have a very big research presence at Google. And we also have a great program called Tech Advisors, which is basically a technical mentoring program, which can be anything from job-related issues to kind of personal growth and development and kind of career development. So it's one-on-one coaching with experienced tech Googlers. And the last thing to highlight is information. So Google overall has a very open culture of information. Every Friday we have something called TGIF, where Sergey and Larry and other high-level staff basically hold a meeting like this where there's beer and food and they answer questions about the state of the company. There's collaborative docs, open things, and basically just anybody at the company that you might want to talk to is open to meeting with you. Like if you email someone that is much higher, that you will probably be able to sit down with them. It's a really neat feature. All right, so we'll talk a little bit more about the opportunities that we're looking for and how you can apply. So for full-time and internship opportunities, we're hiring for software engineers. That's where the bulk of our roles are. But we also have a few roles in product management, in user experience research and design, and in IT, which is a rotation program. But I want to talk more specifically about the software engineering role. So it's actually broken down into 3 roles. The software engineer role is for building products and systems and improving the ones we already have. There's the software engineering test program, which allows you to test features and scale. And then site reliability, which is basically making sure Google products and systems are up and running 24 hours a day and extremely reliable. And so the application process, if you do want to apply, which we hope you do, you'll apply online at google.com/students. From there, our team will review your resume or CV. And if you pass the resume review, you'll have 1 to 2 technical phone screens. And then if you're applying for a full-time new grad position, you will come on site to one of our offices, depending on where you apply. And you'll have 3 to 5 on-site interviews, or if you're an intern, you'll have 1 post-matching interview, which is essentially where you will interview with whoever's going to be your intern most of the summer and make sure it's a good fit, mutually good fit. And then you'll go through what we call a hiring committee, which is just basically a review of this process, and then your offer. Oh, pardon me. All right. So next I want to talk about a little bit about our programs and scholarships. So for those of you that are not, are maybe a first or second year student, there's some programs we have for you as well. So Android Camp is a week-long camp in the summer, which you basically just go and learn how to develop for Android, and this is open for first and second year students. And then Freshman Engineering Practicum, that's the name, but it would be for first year students in Canada. Basically, it's a 10-week development internship program for students who are going to be going into their second year. It's a really great program because it includes mentoring and technical skills development as well as your primary project, and has a great social component as well. And then we also have coding events, so summer code and code jam, where you can basically sign up to improve your skills and compete with other students. But I'm not going to go into each one of these, but we also do offer a lot of different opportunities for scholarships. So to date, over almost $9 million in scholarship money to more than 2,100 Googlers. So this is all again on the google.com/students site for you to check out after the session. So that basically wraps up kind of our info and culture at Google. I wanted to take a couple of questions before we start our panel that are specific to kind of to this part of the presentation. Yeah.
How much an intern can touch the technical aspect of whatever program they're in?
A lot. That's basically, if you're hired as a technical intern, that will be, you'll have a primary technical project where you're able to make real progress on whatever team you're on. Interns at Google are expected to ramp up fairly quickly and to make real contributions that will be implemented on their team. And we'll have a couple of former interns on the panel as well, so they'll be able to speak more in depth about their project. Anyone else?
How long are the internships you were offering?
How long are they?
Yeah.
So they're anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks for our first and second year internships, up to 12, 14, or sometimes even 16-week internships for for juniors or for third years.
If you're a recent grad, you still apply as a student?
If you've been out of school for less than a year, then yes. Anyone else? Well, I hope you guys have lots of questions for our panelists, because they are happy to answer any questions. But that is all for the culture at Google. Oh, wait back there.
What's compensation?
Compensation is very competitive with the industry. I'm not going to throw out numbers here, but it's definitely on the very high end of what you could expect with other companies. Yeah.
You just mentioned about the research, the activity at Google, but you do not go into details. Could you introduce it more about that?
Basically, we're having a session tomorrow, which is going to be more specifically about PhD information at Google. What I will say is that a lot of our offices do have active research scientist populations working on, I think we have 12 distinct research areas, so artificial intelligence, computer vision, basically all of the major computer science disciplines. That I would definitely recommend attending our session tomorrow. You can talk about
And what
Sorry?
What time?
Oh, 5 p.m.
You talked about the current projects. Are you going to be talking about some of the future projects you'll be working on, or prospective future projects?
So it's difficult to talk about prospective projects because those kind of lie in a database with the intern hosts. But what we can say is that they are across basically every single product area that Google offers. So those 8 areas we showed at the beginning are all going to have different projects that are available for this summer and beyond.
I can answer a bit for future projects in Montreal.
Yeah.
So to give you an idea as well of how the Chrome team works, is we work on a very short development cycle, which is a 6-week development cycle. And basically, the project is, when you join the team, you will be part of the decision making for the project direction. We have a general vision, which is we want the web to be open, we want the browser to be fast, and we want the UI to be ultra simple for the user. But then you'll be part of deciding the future of the browser. And it's done on a 6-week cycle. Sometimes projects span more, like 3 months or 6 months, but it's very much an iterative process.
What kind of students are specifically looking for when you hire interns?
So for these roles that we're discussing today, they're all technical roles. So we're looking for students either in computer science or related fields with very strong technical backgrounds, with actual programming experience, and have also taken highly technical courses, in your computer science programs. Yeah. Is there anything else?
And in what year?
Across all years. Nothing else? Cool. Well, I think we can then welcome our Googler panelists up to the front, and we'll start the next section. All right, so for the beginning of the panel, I'd love to have each of our panelists introduce themselves and talk briefly about their current team and project.
Hi everyone, my name is Sebastian, and I'm a member of the CZP team. Our goal is to make Chrome faster and more secure. So my part consists of making Chrome more secure, working with Chris who make Chrome faster. For my background, I have a bachelor in engineering at Polytechnic, and that's it. I was an intern last summer. I was supposed to do a master, but here I am as a full-time engineer now. So if you have some question about how for the internship, it was okay.
So my name is Chris Hamilton. My background, I guess I did a lot of school, 4 degrees, a couple bachelor's, master's, PhD. Didn't want to get a job. And then I was applying for postdocs, and somebody told me to apply at Google. And when salary was quite a bit more than the postdoc salary, I said, well, let's try it out. So 2 years later, it's a lot of fun. I work on Syzygy, which is a kind of developer tool, kind of post-link with we optimize the Chrome binary before shipping it off to use for the Windows platform. And there's lots of challenging problems there. It's lots of fun. So there's never a day that goes when I really don't look forward to coming to work.
Hi, my name's Nav. I work on the Safe Browsing team. I'm from a small town in British Columbia that none of you will know. Yeah, I studied at UVic, did computer science degree at UVic. I worked in Mountain View as a site reliability engineer for the first couple years of my career. I transferred into software engineering, and I moved to Montreal.
Hello, my name is Mathieu. I did a master's here in computer science at McGill. I was an intern a couple of times at Google since 2010 over there in Mountain View. And now I joined full-time this year. I'm working on Chrome metrics. So whenever people decide to send us data to improve Chrome, we analyze all that and also work on some more UI projects. So pretty exciting work. And yeah, so if you have any questions later on about the internship process, then Sebastian I converted from being an intern to full-time. It was pretty smooth. So
Hi, my name is Marc-André Decoste, or as the English people call me, MAD, my initials, MED. Et en passant, si vous avez des questions en français, ne vous gênez pas, on va comprendre et on va pouvoir répondre en français. Désolé pour ceux qui comprennent absolument rien de ce que je dis. So I did my bachelor's degree way back at the University of Montreal, started the master's, started the PhD, didn't finish any, and then ended up working for Softimage for a few years. And then I joined Google here because I think Icelanders are so cool. I wanted to work with these guys, but they're also amazing. So what attracted me here to Google was that we have such good people. It's very, there's lots of motivation in working with people that are so bright. So here, I've worked on many different projects on Google Desktop, IE Toolbar, and stuff like that. Now working on Chrome, mainly at the UI level, but also some low-level Windows stuff. I'm one of those Windows guys that Shibal was talking about. And that's about it.
So as a follow-up to that, can we get a couple panelists to just answer the question, what do you like most about working at Google? And I think this can be really broad and basically anything.
So Matt touched a little bit about why I like being at Google is really the people. So you know, you work with amazing people and you learn something from them every day, anything. So really the quality of the people, I've never seen that before. You know, when you're in school, there's always a lot of people, and not all of them are super interesting. You know, sometimes it seems like they're just there for the degree, really. It's true, but you get to Google and it's all people that want to be there and they choose to be there and they want to work on exciting stuff. They always bring a new perspective. So that's why I like, every day I'm sort of challenged in what I think. And it's a great environment to be in. So so that's why I decided to come here, and that's why I come back every day.
So one thing I like about Google is that every day is a new challenge. You have the project are not easy, but not impossible. So it's not like in some other company where you have some projects that is easy, but take a lot of time to do it. So it's boring sometimes. But here it's always a new challenge. You say, oh, how am I going to do this? It's impossible. Take your time, think about it. And when you make it, it's very nice. It's your favorite. Good.
Mathieu and Sébastien, there was a question about internships. Can you tell us a bit about your experience, and particularly from a technical perspective? The question was, were you able to do something that goes into the code base? What were your responsibility and level of difficulty from a technical perspective?
Yeah, from my part, it's a little bit different because CCG is a side project from Chrome. It's not in Chrome, it's used by the Chrome toolchain, but it's not directly in the Chrome code base. But at the beginning, Chris was my mentor, and my first project was not so hard, but not so easy. And it was just, I think, to test me. And once I finished it, Chris told me, okay, now I have your real project. And he asked me to do a CGSN with a kind of instrumental to check the memory access inside the binary operator. When he told me that, there was 3 or 4 weeks left my internship, I think, and I'm never going to be able to do this. But like Mathieu said, we have great people here who can help you if you need. And they helped me, I made it in 4 weeks, and so it was nice. And it was what I like to do, so it was a great experience.
So I had two internships, and they were both kind of a little bit different. The first one was with mobile ads. So this was 2 years ago, so mobile ads were sort of starting, and they asked me to do a prototype. So actually I came up with the idea, I'm like, so we have an application maybe to track all the different offers that you see on the web, because we had offers sometimes attached to ads. And so they said, yeah, sure, go ahead and just write a design doc and talk to the right people and just do a prototype. So I ended up doing something where you can save different ads that the different offers that you saw, as you browse the web, and there was a little mobile app. So that ended up not being a real product. It was just a prototype. But later on, some of that got integrated into Google Wallet, which is the Android app and website that goes along with it to track offers and redeem coupons and so forth. And I joined that team the next year because they'd seen my work the previous year. And now I really worked on real code that went in the code base because I was fixing bugs on the Android app. So this was 2011. So the app was just about to be released. So I got to San Francisco and I didn't know what I was going to work on except that it was Golf Wallet. So now they show me the first day, here's this app, we're going to release it in 3 weeks. We really need to get going. So it was pretty awesome, just writing code in the code base and fixing bugs the same way the other engineers were just fixing bugs. So really, yes, to answer the question, you can have a lot of impact. And towards the end of my internship, I was submitting code at the same rate as any other engineer. And so that way, when you submit code, you can get that in your evaluation, and people appreciate you, and gives you a chance to come back as a full-time engineer because people know your value as an engineer. So I think it's an awesome way, and internships are really an awesome way to come in later as full-time.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to comment from the other side. I've never been an intern, but I actually hosted interns, and usually I try to treat them just like full-timers, except I actually give them the opportunity to work on a more isolated piece. They have their own stuff, they own it, so that it's easier to track the evaluation, because it's also for school, right? So we're there to evaluate the people, but it's also for us. We're here to identify, will these people be good employees for us? And we need to make sure that they have a focused project to work on and everything that they need, which we can't always get as full-timers because we're very often being called on emergencies and go from one thing to another. So focus is not always the main part of our job. But for interns, we try to get them a little bit isolated from the craziness, but we do show them a bit of craziness once in a while, because we want to evaluate how well they will behave or actually excel when they become full-time, like these two guys.
And another point about internships is that we see an internship as not only us, we're trying to see if you are good enough to become a Googler after, but as well you are sort of deciding for yourself. So we try to give you an ability to sample what life at Google is and what a real project at Google is. So later if you decide to apply for a job, you know what it is. So we see it as a two-way relationship where we're giving you our best space and you are giving us your best space, and hopefully at the end there is a marriage. Hopefully something. Second question, Matt, you started a project called Swarm, which is now open source, and that was a 20% project. And Mathieu, you worked on CCP, which was a 20% project. Sorry, Sébastien, can you tell us about the 20%, the concept, the experience, and how it works?
Yeah, well, the most popular 20% project, probably the most known one, is Gmail. Like many years ago, someone decided that he wanted to have a better email system and decided to write his own as a little 20% project, and it became, as we saw earlier, a product that's used by hundreds of millions of people. And this is not just from the early days of Google. We still do that today. We still encourage everybody to invest 1 day a week or 20% of their time in general on a project that they're really passionate about that might not be part of their core responsibilities. The one that I built started actually by a need from one of the teams I was working on. When I was working on Toolbar, we needed to have configuration testing, so we wanted to have ways to send our tests to multiple machines. So I decided to work on that, and then the project died, but I was really interested in this little testing infrastructure that I built that didn't really have a need because the project needed it. Wasn't there anymore, but I continued building it. And of course, we gained in building generic systems that can be reused. It was not built specifically for IE Toolbar, but for any project that would need configuration testing. So I continued working on it on my own without having, it's like writing a software without any clients, but you know that eventually the clients will be there. And I was allowed to work on that 1 day a week for a little while, and then people started manifesting interest, and now we're using it in many different products a few years after, and Chrome is going to start using it also to shard test on multiple machines. So this is something that I really enjoyed working on. It's something that I created on my own, initially for a project, but eventually just for my own fun, and eventually it became useful for other people. And the only Sad thing now is that there are other people working on it and not me.
So from my part, I don't really have a 20% project, but I take some of my 20% time to, because my project aims to find bugs in Chrome, and I've always wanted to be involved in a big open source project, so Chrome is a kind of very big open source project. So I take my 20% time to try to fix those bugs. So I detect bugs and I say, okay, there's a bug in the UI, I don't know anything about the UI, I'm going to try to fix it. So this is how I use my 20% time.
Well, actually, Chris, you can talk about Syzygy.
Yeah, so this is the project which both Sebastian and myself work on. We started by one of the founding Icelanders of the office, and it was a 20% project of his. He was fed up with the Microsoft Visual Studio tools and then not working the way he wanted them to, and he was trying to do an end run around that and write something to do it his own way. The problem turned out to be a lot harder than he thought, and then it became something that's consumed about 4 man-years worth of time now. But it started off as a 20% project, and now it's a fully staffed project with 4 full-time employees and a couple interns in the summer. One of the things that I was going to point out, though, also with 20% projects is Google is a large, complex beast. Anything you can imagine, there's another version of it or a fork of it in-house, custom changes. It's just, there's anything software related, there's an equivalent in Google that gets used. And when you're using these tools, you'll find bugs. It happens, right? Big projects. And the attitude is, you find the bug, you fix it. So that ends up being kind of your 20%. So in Chrome, we use a large kind of meta repository tools for managing Git projects, Subversion projects, multiple ones, putting them all together, how they fit together. Anyways, giant project called Tipo Tools, and we use this every day, but all the time. So that's what I use my 20% time is all fix a couple dozen bugs a year and that kind of thing. So it's just, it makes your life easier. The nice thing about it is nobody's going to get mad at you if you take a day in a week, or if you take even a month, or a week at the end of a month, or if you take a couple weeks in a quarter. You're free to do that. Explore something else.
Cool, thanks guys. So for the next question, I'd love people to respond or to answer what does a typical work day or work week look like for you guys? This can involve either kind of just general life and Google stuff or stuff about your technical projects.
Who's pushing on me? Your turn. Yeah. Well, a typical day for me. So to add some context, I work at Safe Browsing Service, and what we try to do is protect the world from bad stuff. So it sounds challenging, and it is. So we try to find malicious websites, bad Android apps, other bad Windows applications, and try to protect everybody from them, not just Google users. Our data is used by Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Facebook, Google Search, everybody. And we give the data away for free, and other people can use it and incorporate it into their own tools, products, or services. So the kind of problems I deal with are quite big. They're like, how do we protect Chrome users from bad websites? So when I come in, I have one of these types of problems on my table, and I need to figure out how can we possibly do that? And these are unsolvable problems, right? They're very difficult, but we still try to make dents in them and ultimately solve them. Solve unsolvable problems is what I do. Should right there. Typical day, I solve unsolvable problems. But so I design systems, so I'm talking with other people on my team, I'm researching, prototyping, I'm hitting the whiteboard, talking to other people. I design a system, build it with other people, prototype it, push these out as new features, record how they work, and then iterate. And then between, I play guitar with other people in the office when I can't think anymore. We have other various hobbies like going to the gym, whenever I can't think. That's kind of like my typical day.
Actually, interestingly here, our typical day is a little bit offset because we work a lot with people in California. So when we come in the morning, they're not there, so we can actually do work. And usually what I do is I finish the stuff I started the day before, but I couldn't finish it because I kept being disturbed by people in California. So my typical day is when I come in, usually I have some coding to do. and I have time to do my coding, and I do whether it's a bug that I'm trying to fix, or a test I'm trying to write, or a new feature and stuff like that. And by lunchtime, email starts pouring in. So I just get out of my office and go have lunch. And then after lunch, I come back and I start reading those emails, and then I start having discussions about the next bug that I'll need to fix, or the next feature that we will need to design, and then we disagree. So we call up a meeting. We have a very efficient video conferencing. We have conversation with people all over the world, mostly in California, but there are also people in New York. There's some people in Europe that we try to talk to, although those will want to talk to me in the morning. That might be a bit annoying. So we usually get a lot of discussion. I killed someone. Okay. No, dead. Yeah. But I speak loud enough for the people in the room. It's just sad for the video that I'm doing this thing. It doesn't work. So we had lots of whiteboard discussions, and oh, hello you look so small. So we do exchange a lot with other people. It's not just sitting down at my computer and coding, although I really enjoy doing that in the morning. But we do have a lot of discussions. We do have lots of disagreement that we eventually get to something better than the individuals would have thought on their own. And once we finally get to agree on something, then it's time to go home, have dinner, take care of my kids, and I'll probably code that stuff the next morning. So that's the typical day for me. Good enough?
Yeah, I can. Actually, a follow-up question is, what is the life of a CL?
What's a CL? A CL is a change list. We work a lot with as small changes as we can do, even though Google is very big. There's a lot of code, millions of lines of code. We try to do our changes incrementally as small as possible, and we call those CL, a change list. So those are the lines of code that I've added, modified, or completely removed. And yes, it is good to remove code. And usually the way it starts is either by an idea of what do we want to add as a new feature, or somebody found a bug and then we need to fix it. So I start like making a branch in Git and start making the changes and experimenting with them. And when I think I'm done, I'm probably a quarter of the way in there. Because then I have to update the tests if there are existing tests. I have to write new tests if there are no tests. And then I have to ask for a code review. And then some people will start looking at my code and say, Matt, you don't know what you're doing. And then we'll get to another iteration, write some more tests, or do some more changes. And eventually, me and the code reviewer agree that this is the good change. It's a good piece of code. Now we have to ask the owners, because a lot of folders, either within the internal repo of code of Google or in the open source Chrome repo, we have files that identify who are the owners of the folders, and they have to approve every changes that go there. So I have to find one of those owners when it's not me, and then ask their permission to make this change, and then they say, Matt and his reviewer don't know what they're doing, and then they'll suggest more changes, and after that, and then updating the tests again, and then running all those tests on Mac, Linux, Android, iOS, and all of those other platforms, waiting for the results to come back, and then they're read because I didn't think that Mac would fail on that. And then I make some more changes, make sure that all the try bots, as we call them, which are test robots, when they're all green and happy, then I can hit commit, my CL's done, and I can start another one.
Make it sound so complicated. Really not that bad. Write your CL, and this is like the try-box.
Yeah, but it's just it's so good. It works the first time for you.
Right? No, but this is all open source, the stuff about Chromium.
Me too.
A lot of it is open source for Chromium, so you can all go on chromium.org and sort of see what we have going on there. But yeah, CL is basically that. Most of the time is spent, sort of iterating on getting the perfect code, and that's really the awesome part. Is when you get in, you may not be the best C++ coder in the world, but you do have some of the best C++ coders in the world that do your reviews. So you actually get to improve your code a whole lot, and then after a few months, you actually produce very high quality code. And I saw this even as an intern. I got into Google Wallet, which is an Android app in Java, and really your first code reviews are kind of brutal because everyone suggests little ways to make it better and sort of indentation and variable names and so forth. But at the end of the summer, you're just producing really robust code that you can bring in school, you know, if you have school projects after. So, so the code review process is kind of awesome for that, and really helps you improve your quality of your code.
Actually, interestingly, he said it right. Like, first few code reviews, you find them brutal, but then you end up being the one being brutal with the young kids that start, and you give the same kind of comment, which is good. It helps keep a very sane code base, and it's not just the code quality, but it's the code readability. We have very strict coding styles that we have to follow. There's hard rules, but also on the quality of the actual code to make sure it's going to be efficient, make sure it's going to be maintainable. So we gain a lot of experience and exchange each other's experience by not being shy and telling people over a code review, no, this is not the way it should be done, you should do it like that. There's always room for argument, but eventually the goal is to have the best code possible, and after being slammed with a hammer a lot in the past, you get to slam other people with a hammer when it's your turn.
Can you tell us more about the release process of safe browsing, Chrome, and CCD?
Talk about safe browsing. There's this external component, right, that browsers connect to and people incorporate to the products like I told you about. But internally, we have systems that build this data. They get fed into this external part. So the external side of things don't change very often. It's like an API, right, that's available. It's the data that changes. And we are constantly changing how that data is being produced, trying to make it more efficient, faster, better, and trying to add more data, right? So in general, we're trying to find more badness, right? Quicker, better, and push it out to users more quickly. So when we're releasing internally, we do release like every week. So you get, you could have an idea one day, write it out the next, and push it out the next day, and then start seeing results a few days later, like all within a week. So it's very, very fast release system procedure within my own team, which is really cool and satisfying to see that data out there really quickly.
So I can talk a little bit about the syzygy release process. Syzygy is kind of a support project, part of the Chrome effort, but not directly in the Chrome code base. The only interface we have with Chrome is there will be a release version of the syzygy tools, which are used in the compiling and linking and shipping of Chrome. So that is what we release to. They are basically our only client. So internally, we'll work on a CL. We'll release, your CL will be committed. That's in the trunk. Every now and then, when we go, okay, we've had a major feature addition or whatever, we're going to push a release, a point release. We're going to change the version number. We're going to package a new set of binaries. Those are going to go off to a repository somewhere. And then, as needed, we need that new feature now in Chrome. Well, then we're going to what we call roll deps. We're going to roll dependencies and push that out to Chrome. And then it goes through the same channels that Chrome goes through. So it'll start to be applied on Chrome Canary channel, which is daily builds, nightly builds for people who want to kind of test the leading edge. 6 weeks later, it'll roll into the dev build, which is like kind of weekly build. Then it'll roll off into beta, then it'll roll off into stable eventually. So we have less formalities to go through. We decide when to pull the crank, when to cut a new release. But in the end, it goes through all the same steps that the Chrome stuff goes through. More often than not, we will end up having to roll a release in a panic. We'll break something, which happens. We're a pretty young project, so we'll know when a new version of Chrome comes out, nightly build, and they've added some new feature which breaks something that we do, and will cause the Chrome Canary to not build that thing. And that's a pretty big thing, because they count on releasing a version of Chrome every 24 hours. And there are many, many millions, hundreds of millions of users. So that's when we get angry emails and a whole bunch of them in a short amount of time. And we have a couple hours to figure out what's going on and cut a release and get it sent out. So it can be a little bit stressful at those times, but normally it's pretty smooth sailing.
Want to talk about test certification?
Test certification, sure.
Boring.
Yeah, it's not boring to me.
Yeah, no, actually, test certification is interesting. Maybe just to me. But the idea is that within Google, a little while back, somebody started a 20% project called test certification, because debugging sucks and test rocks. So we try to write as much test as we can, but also we want to have a good process to test and be able to ship good product. So somebody established different ladder levels of test certification. So level 1 means, well, you have a daily build. So at least you build your binaries every day to make sure that you didn't break your build. Then level 2 might be, well, you have tests that run on every one of those builds, and you have code coverage of about 50%. So you have enough testing that runs on your binaries to touch at least half of your code. So that's level 2, and then level 3. So there's different levels of policies. Make sure you never ship if you have a single red test. Make sure you always have an interactive test for all major features. So there's different degrees of the test certification ladder, and there's some sort of competition between the teams. Like, teams are really, really happy when they get to test certification level 5. This means that their release process is really robust, and it's very well organized internally. There's a way to register for the different test certification ladder, and there's internal tools for everything. So very often, to reach a certain level, you need to use a certain set of tools to be able to calculate, for example, your code coverage. And as Chris was saying, is that those tools are in-house tools, so if we find problems with them, we fix them ourselves. So we can help the whole of Google be better tested so they can release more smoothly and have better products.
Thanks, guys. So fun fact about how much Google loves testing. I'm not sure if you guys have it in Google Montreal, but in New York, we have an actually thing called Testing on the Toilet, which is weekly episodes of about how to write better tests inside all of the stalls. It's a fun Google fact.
Yeah, we have them here.
So to shift gears a little bit, I'd love a couple of the panelists to talk a little bit about your interviewing experience, as much as you can talk about, as well as what you thought was pretty hard and some advice to our future Googlers.
It's more recent.
Right. And my process was, I did the interview process for internships, so that might be interesting to you. So the first step is to apply, right? So I haven't thought of applying, but then someone told me, you should really apply and see what comes of it, right? And so you apply, you do the standard thing, and then you get the email, right? You're like, oh, I'm invited to an interview, so you start panicking, basically. And but really now you prepare until the date of your interview. You prepare and you read everything there is to read, all the false things and the true things about Google interview, the interview process. And they also give you some resources, check out these links and so forth. So you prepare, you read up a bunch of questions, and basically they're technical questions that you get asked during your interview. And so you prepare, you do a whole lot of them, and there's also some puzzles you can do online to prepare, and practice kind of coding on the spot. And so basically the interview process for internships, if I remember correctly, you get some sort of screening. Maybe you might have mentioned it in the presentation. You get a screening and then a couple of full technical interviews. Some of them might be in person, but some of mine were on the phone. And so you get asked, technical questions, and you have to solve them on the go, on the spot. And yeah, so it's what you'd expect. There's no trick questions. If you've prepared enough, you can sort of figure out the question, and the interviewer is there, not to trick you, but to kind of see your thinking process and so forth. And so yeah, there's a couple of interviews for the internship, and then eventually, if you want to convert into a full-time employee, you get this other suite of interviews, by again full-time employees. So it's always people that are in your role that end up interviewing you. And so it's very relevant, and it's you can talk with that person, and they know what you're saying and what you're talking about. So it's really a fun process, and the trick is just to prepare well and kind of try not to be too stressed out about it, and just remember that they're not there to trick you. They're just there to see if you can think quickly, and yeah, I'd say the interview process is pretty fun.
If you have a graduate degree, it's a little bit different, I guess. You still do the technical content, but then they'll typically have one of the interviews will just be like a piece session. So it would be you giving a 20-minute presentation, trying to condense something that the person you're talking to is not going to understand in any reasonable amount of time. And then they're going to try and drill down and see more about process. Like they're trying to evaluate, did you actually get anywhere? How did you approach tough problems, that kind of thing. So the whole interview process is basically that. They're just trying to evaluate your thinking process. In terms of the technical interviews, if you're the kind of person that does like ACM competitions or like top coder stuff, when you're like sitting on the toilet at home, you're thinking about coding problems or algorithms, it's basically fun, right? You come in for 5 hours of doing whiteboard coding of interesting, curious, hard algorithm problems. So if you're good at that, you'll kind of sail through the interviews. There's also one interview tends to be something that's more kind of design oriented, thinking of the broad strokes. So you describe a tough problem and say, well, let's forget about the details, but how would you approach this problem? How would you build a system that would allow you to do this and serve millions of people, hundreds of millions of people? And those are open-ended, and there's no right or wrong answer really. But they just want to see your ability to kind of establish parameters, put bounds on the size of the problem. You know, how big is it really, and to come up with a feasible plan of attack and kind of explore it interactively.
Question. Sorry, if I heard you correctly, these last 5 hours?
This changes. Yeah. When I did my interview, you do like a phone interview, and then I did 5 on-site interviews for 45 minutes each.
Okay.
So roughly 5 hours at a time, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's generally 3 to 4 for new grads.
It changed. Yeah. I don't know
Yeah,
exactly.
might have been different because of PhD.
PhD.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the other thing for interviewing that we found a lot of our interns and new grads find really helpful is kind of go back to the basics and dust off the first and second year data structures and algorithms textbooks and like really review the fundamentals. And also to actually practice on a whiteboard if you're coming in for an on-site interview, because it's pretty nuanced and can help actually write real code, or to do it on a Google Doc, which is what you'll do if you have a phone.
And one good thing is to have good grades, because that will get you probably to the interview in the first place. So it's important to get back to work.
So do that when you get back from.
So she was mentioning first and second year courses that, so for Miguel it needs like Comp 250, Comp 51, those are more important than you think.
One final question is, there was a question about what are our next projects. So once you finish the project you're working on, how do you decide what you're going to do next?
So, little anecdote is a year and a half ago we had a summit in Mountain View about the Chrome UI. So the Chrome UI team gets together, we discuss what are the current projects and what different offices are working on, have a bit of face time together. And at one point we said, okay, what do you think is bad in the Chrome UI? Let's start do Chrome bashing, and everybody start throwing ideas of what we should improve, and we have sessions of getting a bit more details. So it's just us, the developers. It's not the big guns at the top of the ladder that say, okay, you do this. No. We sit together, the ones that are going to work on it. We decided the direction we would like. Of course, there are some UI experts that will filter all that, but the ideas came from us. But the most interesting thing is once we had all of the ideas, we did the filtering, they were all on the board, then they turned to the room and say, okay, what do you want to work on? Okay, who wants to work on that? And then you raise your hand. And then someone raises, well, what's more important? No. What do you want to work on? So very often at Google, we let you work on the stuff that you find exciting, within certain boundaries, of course, because we know you're going to be much more efficient when you work on something exciting. So when you're done, come back to the question, with the current stuff that you're doing, most of the time you're going to look for, what would I want to do next? What's the next big project that I would like to take? And then you take it. Of course, there are some interesting things that are already taken by others, like the quicker you are at it, or sometimes it's easier if it comes from your own ideas that nobody has thought about it yet, like a new feature in Chrome that you think is going to be excellent if you work on the Chrome team, of course, then you just try it and push it, and there's a good chance that you're going to own it because you're the one who came up with it. Or sometimes you can just you listen to the feedback you get from users. Oh, I think that this is really interesting. Nobody took it. I want it. And then you jump on it and you work on it. There's also cases where we have emergencies and then we call for help. Like there's not enough people working on that feature. We need help. There's nobody who would like to do it. So there's calls for volunteers. But this gives you another idea. We're not being told what we're going to work on. We get to choose what we're going to do. So for myself, it's going to be what will be the next great Chrome feature that I can work on? How can I help the Chrome users to have a better experience? And I'm just going to run with it. Or I just follow up on what's happening and where we're lacking people. And if I find something that I really enjoy doing, I just jump on it and do it. How do you choose your next project, man?
It's actually similar to the story we have. We're a friend of, a colleague of mine, we were talking yesterday about brainstorming. And we talked about projects we're working on now and how our brainstorming sessions happened like years ago. And we remember those conversations. We're at the whiteboard and there was like no bad idea, right? Just throw it out there, we put it on, and then we organize them and prioritize them later and figure out who wants to work on them. But at the time, they sounded as crazy as building self-driving cars. But in my domain, in the security domain, it just sounded really crazy. And in your head, you did say it because it was no bad ideas, right? But you're like, there's no way we could ever do that. There's no way we could ever deliver that product to users. And a year or two later, you find yourself in that position where you're actually doing the things that you really thought you wouldn't be able to do. So for us, it's brainstorming sessions that help us figure out what our next big ideas are, as well as kind of like, maybe it's similar to consulting. Like I work on my team, I work on these projects, and every once in a while, I get my foot in the door of something else. It's a tool that I'm using, like maybe Bigtable or something, I'm using in my project. And I get down an interesting path. I'm like, that's a really interesting problem that they haven't solved in Bigtable. I wonder if I could do that. And then you start, maybe it's a 20% project, and then something like that could turn into your full project.
Well, I think actually we can start taking some questions from the audience for our panel.
Are we going to pass the microphones? Thanks, yeah.
Questions? Here we go.
Next week you did a master's. So I know a lot of people I've talked to that are finishing up, they're considering doing their master's or going to work right away. And there's some people that say, no, go to work and then do your master's. And there's some people that are like, do your master's and then go to work. What did you get out of your master's? And like, how did that help you or hinder you? Or
So I kind of did a hybrid. So I finished in my bachelor's at McGill and sort of got the internship after my bachelor's. And so went to Google and then decided I wasn't fully ready to convert to full-time. I still wanted to be in school and learn some more. So I sort of did my master's while doing the different internships. And so when I was in the master's, Google waited for me to finish, and then they said, that I converted to full-time. So I sort of cheated a little bit. I kind of did both. Yeah, it's a question that's going to come up at the end of your bachelor's. I'd say, it's just a personal opinion, but if you're going to do a master's, why not do it now? I mean, unless you're kind of you need money and so forth, but because I've never seen that plan really work. Sort of like work a little bit and then go back, but I think the company would support you, and that wouldn't be an issue. But anyway, it's all up to you really, where you think you'll be most comfortable. But the company values your ideas and so forth, and you don't get a higher status because you've done a master's or whatnot. It's just for yourself. Yeah, you're in that position, right?
So I just want to add something. I was supposed to do a master, but I broke it. But I still think that if you want to do a master, you have to have a passion for it. I wasn't passionate about my master. I was just doing it because I wanted to have a master. It's nice. I don't want to work yet. It's up. And I went my internship, and I said, okay, I want to work, but I don't have a clear idea for my master. So if you don't have a clear idea, don't just do it to have it. Don't work anything if you just want to paper on your work. But that's it. I dropped my master's because I wasn't passionate, and I think it's still a good thing to do it if you have a passion.
Not specifically for a master's, but PhD at least. There's a strong emphasis put on the PhD in Google. I don't know the actual numbers. At 30% of engineers.
Yeah, I think around there.
Well, 30% of engineers in Google have PhDs, so they really like PhDs. And there is a benefit in terms of you actually get hired at a more senior level, a higher salary, etc. So, I mean, if you just do a cost benefit analysis, lifetime's earning potential, it'll probably come out slightly on the plus side. But I would say just do it for the experience. You're just getting a few more years of the academic lifestyle, of freedom to pursue whatever you want. And those skills are actually valued, right? It teaches you ways to think about bigger problems. It teaches you how to step back and think about something in the abstract sense, typically. And Google really does value that. So if you have a passion to do it, do it. You're not putting yourself at a disadvantage by it.
So for your first internship, what type of technical skills did you have prior to applying?
For my part, I did not have any particular skills. I had just a bachelor from Polytechnic, and the interviewer gave me the recruiter gave me a list of things that I should know from interview. So I've just read about them, about the graph theory and everything like that. But there's no particular thing that you need to know for an interview. You just need to be passionate. Because if you just answer the question, okay, so we can do it, you have to show passion during the interview. And there's just some algorithm technique on that.
Yeah, so I had the normal skills that you would have at the end of the bachelor's, except, you know, maybe I was a bit more curious about, you know, different puzzles and different, you know, like you mentioned graph theory and so forth. And Facebook used to have some puzzles online that you could do. I don't know if they're still up, but that was pretty interesting. So it's sort of problems that you'd find in ACM competitions and Topcoder and stuff like that. So, you know, that was sort of my interest, but I wasn't necessarily like a champion in those puzzles. Just like found that interesting. In terms of, you know, programming languages, it's just what they show you at Yale, you know, like Java and a bit of Python and stuff like that. So basically, not like an outstanding list of skills, just and I don't think that they would filter on whether you've done, you know, MATLAB or not, or, you know, it's just they want to see interesting stuff on your resumes or like projects that show that you're passionate, like this Betsy mentioned. So I hope that answers the question.
Just to add something on how I've been selected to work for Google, that I've never applied for an internship at Google. I participated with the CS game 2 years ago, and they took my resume during the CS game. I didn't even know it because it was online and didn't apply to a Google booth. And I get an email, you should apply because you're interested in computer science. That's what they were looking for. I wanted to show that I'm interested and doing some competition, so it's a good thing to do.
I don't think your formal training means much either. My background was in math, and if you are good with computers, you understand computer science, you can do those kind of problems, that works. We have some people, I think one person in the office who has like CEGEP or high school, but, you know, contributed to a lot of large open source projects and just have passion and a talent at computer science. And that's all you need. You can study in geology, they don't really care, as long as you're good at what you do.
Hi, I wanted to ask about the 20% rule. First, I want to say that I love the fact that you speak so highly of Icelanders. As an Iceland. But so first, the 20% rule, 2 parts. First, are you allowed to do different projects every week, and then a manager will, for example, routinely go through the list and spot a creative idea? And secondly, are you allowed to work with like a collaborator at XLab if you have like a hardware idea or something that you want to work with someone else when you're mostly working on something?
There's no real like hard and fast rules with this kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of like working on a hobby. You know, you can work with a collaborator on any kind of thing. Especially if you have like a friend there or somebody. You talk to people. They're humans at this company. I've received emails for people who've seen like my hobby projects, internal or external, and saying, hey, are you still interested in that? I work on this team, would you mind having a video conference with me, explaining how it works? I'm thinking of picking up your thing and doing this. And I might be interested in putting people together. So I've been on teams where there's like 2 or 3 people from different teams, different areas working together. And there's no real hard and fast rule about taking a project, things like that. There's no sign up process.
There's one.
Sure?
Yeah. So it has to be something that's meaningful to Google. Like, I'm a novelist, I write novels. I don't think I could use my 20% time to write my novels, right? But if I would write on a tool to help people write novels, maybe Google would become interested. So it gives you an idea of the very slack kind of rule, is that it's not working on bakery unless you have a new Android device that can help do bakery. So it's something that would be interesting to Google.
Yeah, Mark, I really like that answer, and just to kind of contribute. So I know most of you in the room are technical computer science students, but the 20% project doesn't have to be technically focused. Some people are interested in actually like coming on campus and talking to students, doing other maybe non-technically focused in their 20% time. And so it's also an option to do that as well and explore other skills and areas.
Yeah, we used to have grouplets. I don't know if they name them that way anymore. I think there's another term. But the idea is that it's a group of Googlers that have a common interest, right? So, and it can be what's directly interesting to Google, like testing, for example, but it can be things like yoga, which is indirectly useful to Google, because if Googlers do yoga, they might be better fit and they might do a better job at the end. So people that are interested in different things like that, they can get involved in groups to help other Googlers better deal with their life, whether it's the technical life or it's the work-life balance. So this can be part of the 20% fund.
Question over there.
For math, you say you host interns, right? So would you like to explain like the whole smashing process, like the interviews, how would you, the whole smashing interviews, how would you usually do it?
Yeah, so the experience that I've had is other people had done the pre-screening to identify that an intern actually fits the bar, what we need for Google. So after that, people that work at Google already that want to host an intern, they describe their project, they identify what they would like the intern to do, and then there's an initial matching that's done by some people in hiring. They will send you suggestions, or sometimes we receive a long list of these are the available interns, and we identify, oh, this guy seems, or girl seems to have the skill set that I'm looking for. I'm going to ask a potential match. So the way the match works is there's a phone screen that's being done between the host and the intern. There are some technical questions, but they're also like poking for interest. And I've seen cases where different groups would actually fight to get an intern. So the intern is good, and there are multiple groups that are interested, and the intern actually get the choice. Okay, I've been presented these 3 projects. They all want to work with me. I'm the one actually choosing. So it's the actual intern that's going to choose which project they work on if there's interest that's manifested by different people. So the way I do it as an intern host is I'll first check that the actual technical level that I'm expecting is there. So it's like a supplemental interview. I ask a bit of coding and stuff like that, so that I get a feel of if it's up to the bar that I'm looking for. And then, of course, I will look for specific skills based on the project that I have. So I used to have a project that had some networking with App Engine and stuff like that. So I double check that the person had that skill set, and also the interest, the passion, as Sebastian was talking about, and if I would enjoy working with that person. Because there might be a person I wouldn't enjoy working with, but others would. So that's why we actually call it the host and intern matching. Does that answer your question?
The initial, so before the match happens, there's interviews that are very similar to recruiting interviews, but except that you get 2 instead of 5. And these, you get interviewed with engineers, and then they decide, okay, you have the qualities that we require from general qualities for an intern. After that, you are put basically on a bidding market where everybody has a project, and you actually have to, like, a person who like Matt who wants to have an intern has to run fast to catch a person who thinks, okay, this guy can do it for me, and then the matching with Matt will happen. One last question.
Just to add something quickly while we get the microphone over to another person. is that it's very important what you tell your recruiter. If you're in a relationship with a recruiter and they're trying to find a host to match with you, they're going to ask you what you like. And this sort of a couple lines that you write end up in your profile that for the host matching. So it's kind of important. I'd mentioned mobile for me, and so you have to imagine that the host only has this small description plus your resume to look at. So they saw mobile and they contacted me, and we talked about mobile and ended up working in mobile. So you really have to say what you want to work on and not what you think is going to be pleasing for them to hear, because it's going to show up in the host matching interview. You just wrote machine learning because you thought it would be interesting for them to read, but you don't actually like it. And someone from machine learning is going to call you up and say, "Oh, are you interested in machine learning, really?" And so that might not end up being a match in that case. So be careful of what you declare are your interests, and with your recruiter, because the recruiter is not going to know. They're often not very technical people, just they do different stuff.
One other point about recruiters is that the recruiter is basically your friend at Google. And so once you have been selected as a potential candidate, the recruiter is there to defend you and to help you. So they are not evaluating you. Once the first evaluation has happened, which is done by the recruiter, and they are not there to evaluate you. So don't be afraid to ask them any questions you have. Don't be afraid to share information with them. And basically their job is to represent you inside the organization to the engineers who will be doing the interviewing and the selection.
I like that, kind of like an agent.
Yeah, exactly.
And even in the technical interview, don't be afraid to ask any question. The thinking process, if something's not clear, whatever, just ask the question. It's okay.
Also, I was just wondering if the internships that Google were looking for were for people that would really advance technically, or is there room for someone who's I don't know, first or second, in second or third year still within their program for a form of internship, or are they looking for people who have graduated in the master's degrees?
People who are for both. So there's internships for students in undergraduate and also internships for master's and PhD students. Is that the question?
Yeah, but just even people that are still in the early stages of their undergraduate.
So I think, so we have the program